Okay, a couple things before you begin these next few sets of concepts for proving triangles congruent and Cbctc, which you'll learn about here in a couple minutes. I have provided a list of reasons for you, and over here, this is the name kind of the reason or the idea that the reason deals with. Here's a picture of what corresponding angles looks like. Here's a statement that you can use within your proof, and here are the reasons that you can use. So like if you want to talk about corresponding angles, there's lots of different ways that you can talk to me about this, and you can use this on your homework and your quizzes and your tests. I believe that they said that you can do that in PLP because in the homework and the quiz and the test, sometimes they're giving you conflicting information versus what we would tell you. So I'm giving you every possible answer that you could look for. So if you want to talk about corresponding angles, then you can tell me if two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then corresponding angles are congruent. You can always put that down. When you guys get to some of those multiple choice pull down menus in your math Excel, sometimes they call it corresponding angles theorem. Sometimes they call it corresponding angles postulate. Sometimes they'll call it corresponding angles converse theorem or corresponding angles converse postulate. Just know that they'll never give you one where it says corresponding angles theorem, corresponding angles postulate, and have you choose between those two. If they want you to choose corresponding angles, it's going to be like either corresponding angles theorem, and that'll be the only one that they have corresponding with in the choices that they lay out for you, or they'll be like corresponding angles converse postulate, and again that'll be the only choice that you choose from. So if you're trying to use corresponding angles and you have a drop down menu and it lists things out, there will be only one choice for corresponding angles. So just pick the one, no matter whether it says theorem or postulate or converse theorem or converse postulate. They all mean the same thing because different people are writing different problems and from different books. So just grab the one that's talking about corresponding angles if you ever want to use that. And so there's lots of information, and the way this thing's laid out is I go with parallel lines first and everything that's dealing with those. And as far as the parallel lines go, you really only need to know corresponding and alternate interior. And down here is really truly the converse of those ideas. Here, if you know that corresponding angles are congruent or alternate interior angles are congruent, you know that A and B have to be parallel. And again, I put that information out to the side for you. After parallel lines, I move it into triangles, and I talk about base angles, which we talked about already. Base angles converse, the third angles theorem, which you'll see in a little bit. Here's our new theorems that we're going to talk about. So side, side angle, 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 side, HL, Cbctc, or the book, or our problems say CPOCTAC. That's a lot to say. I just call it CPCTC. It's all the same thing. And then you got right triangles, isosceles triangles, vertical angles, reflexive, bisector, or angle bisector, segment bisector, midpoint, and then perpendicular right angles and congruence. Pretty much almost all these theorems are going to be used in the proofs that we talk about. So keep this handy for you. And again, I tell you what the idea is. Here's a picture of it. Here's a statement that you can use, and then different ways that you can state the reason for us. Keep this handy because it is a great reference sheet. So let's talk about congruent statements and using corresponding parts and things like that, because big thing in this section, especially concept 19 and 20, is that the order of the points in your congruent statements is very, very important. It's like a matching game. That's what I always tell my students when I'm going through this. So when you look at this stuff, if I tell you that triangle ABC is congruent to triangle DEF, well, that means that this side and this side are congruent. How do I know that? Well, again, it's a matching game. Look up here. A and B and D and E. I told you everything that the order of the points is important. Well, in this congruent statement, it is telling you who goes with who. They write them in an order so that you know that A and D have to go together. B and E have to go together. So if I put those two pieces of information together, A, B, and D, E, because A and D go together, B and E go together, that means this side has to go together. It's a matching game. Okay? That also tells you that C and F have to go together. Even their angles have to go together. So you can mark things like that. So it's very important that if you look at these congruent statements, look at their order. And when you write things, you got to make sure that the order is correct. Here I've given you a couple of examples of writing angles and segments that are congruent. For instance, segment AB is congruent to segment DE. And that's good order because A and D match up. B and E match up. Okay? Over here, this is incorrect. Segment AB congruent to segment ED. Notice that I'm trying to tell you that A and E are the same, but they're not. Remember, that should be B and E. Okay? And then try to tell you that B and D are the same. So this is incorrect order. This is not going to get you any points, and it's not going to work when you guys go to your drop-down menus or have to type in angles or segments when you get to that Math Excel piece. Okay, here's another example. All I did was switch these points. Well, what if I did segment BA? Well, then I got to switch my points over here and make sure that they match up, because B and E go together. A and D go together. They're stuck with each other, and you got to make sure that they're always in that right order in the right spot. Here's an angle real quick. I did this angle up here for angle B because we know that it matches up with angle E. See, B and E go together, so they should match. So angle ABC congruent to angle, well, who matches up with A? That would be D. Who matches up with B? That would be E. Who matches up with C? That would be F. Again, it's just a matching game. Same thing happens if I flip my points around and I do angle CBA or angle FED. Okay, C and F match up. B and E match up. A and D match up. Or I could just, since these triangles are apart and there's only one angle B and one angle E, I could just write that angle B and angle E. Again, over here are the mess ups. Try to tell you that A and F belong together, C and D belong together, and that's incorrect. And again, if I switch the points around, C and D, A and F, no matter what, you've got to watch your matching. The other thing, that I usually talk to myself about, whenever I see a congruent statement up here, okay, I always kind of map out who should be with who. Like A and D, they go together. B and E go together. C and F go together. That way it's easy for me to mark things. And the cool part about this is when you mark like that one letter, really what you're doing is you're telling me what angles go together. So I can come up here and mark A and D go together. They're angles. B and E go together. Angles. C and F go together. Angles. So once you know a congruent statement, it's like a map of everything you need to know. I can even mark sides. I know these two sides got to go together. I know these two sides got to go together. Okay? So this is like marking everything that is congruent. That's those corresponding parts. Okay? But the most important thing that I'm talking to you about is you got to watch that order. If you put things in the wrong order, you're going to get points counted off, and it's not going to take your answer. Okay? So I've got this page right here where I want you to tell me all the sides that are congruent, all the angles that are congruent, and go ahead and pause that video real quick and write those congruent statements. These are all congruent statements when you tell me sides congruent and angles congruent. Same thing up here. This is a triangle congruent statement. So if they ever ask you to write congruent statements, this is really what they want. They want to know a segment congruent to a segment, or an angle congruent to an angle, or triangles congruent to a triangle. So go ahead and pause the video right now. So if I look up here and I kind of just make a little mapping of what's going on, we know that A and A go together. I'm going to mark that down. We know that B and D go together. And C go together. So this is like our placement when we write things down here. So if I come up here and I want to figure out who matches AB, well, obviously you can look in the picture and you know that it's AD, but we can verify that over here through our markings of our points. So if I talk about segment AB and who it's congruent to, well, A matches up with A, B matches up with D. So there's my other segment. So I definitely now know that these two segments go together. And I can mark the rest. I know these two have to go together because B matches up with D and C just matches onto itself. So we got BC congruent to DC. And then if I just match my last segment, which is AC, and I can match it over here. A matches onto A, C matches onto C. So there's all my sides. And then I can just, do my angles real quick. Tough part about this is if I match up angle A with angle A, well, there's like 3 angle A's here. So you're going to have to use 3 points for this guy. So if I do my first angle, I'll just call it angle A or BAC. And then I can come over here and just do my proper matching for it. So BAC would be DAC. There's my angle that matches, DAC, which is that guy down there. Then if I do my other hard angle, because again, there's like 3 angle C's here. So my top angle is angle BCA. BCA. Match it up. B goes with D. C to C. and A to A. So there's my other angle that matches it. See, it's just a matching game, guys. Now the last one, angle B and angle D, that's our easy one. That's just angle B, angle D. And the reason why I can use 1 point for that is because there aren't any other angle B's or angle D's attached to it, like these guys. You know, I had the top angle C, had the bottom angle C, but I also had this giant angle C right there. That's why I had to be very specific with those 3 points. So, word of the wise, when writing congruent statements in these next few sections, next few concepts, you need to watch your order. Order's super important for us.